What's up? Roland here. This week on 3D NerdStop, we're going to go over CURA 2 beta. We're going to go over how to install a custom printer. We're going to compare it to CURA 1, and then we're going to print out some test prints. Alright guys, here you go. As you can see, we're on the Ultimaker website. Now what I did when I got here is I went to Products, CURA Software, which brought me to here. Now I will put a link down in the description below to get here. What we're going to do is we're going to download the CURA 2.1.1 beta. That's the one that is currently here at the time of making this video. So we would click download, and again they want to ask you what's your purpose for using this. You can just come down here and say I don't want to share any information and click download. Okay, as you can see, when you click download, it'll start downloading it. Alright, it doesn't take too long for it to download, but it does take a minute or so for it to. So we'll let that download real quick. Alright guys, as you can see, it's finished downloading. Here it is, so we can just click on it. So it brought up the install wizard. So we'll use this to guide through our setup of CURA. So we'll go next. Okay. Read through its license. Agree. Where we want to install it. Next. This is fine. And install. Alright, it should just take a minute here for it to install. Alright, as you can see, it's installed and it says it's ready to run. So if we click finish, alright, so see CURA 2.1 is starting up for us, and here it is. Now of course the first thing we'll need to do is, if you notice the printer here, it says it's a 3D Maker starter. Well, that's not our printer. So let's go to add a printer. Well, I don't own an Ultimaker, so we'll go to other, and then we'll come down through here and we will see a whole bunch of printers. I'm not even sure what some of these printers are, but we've got a whole bunch of printers. But if you notice, Robo's not on here, and if you also notice, there's no generic printer setting to set up here. So one of the things that CURA did on this one is you have to actually go and add your printer through the back end. You have to go through the back door to do this. So I'm going to show you all real quick how to do that. Alright guys, so the first thing we need to do is we need to bring up a Windows Explorer, and we need to go to C, Program Files, CURA 2.1, okay, Resources, Machines. And if you look at this, it gives you a list of all the different machines that are coded for right now. Now, I went through and looked through this list first and found that none of them really match the Robo, but then again, I'm not sure exactly what should match the Robo. But I did decide that this one would probably be our best bet. So if we just copy this one, so we'll do a copy here. Alright, the next thing we need to do is name it. Okay, so we renamed the file. Alright, and then I'm going to open it up in Notepad++. So here we go. Here it is in Notepad++. Now, in order to save this file, you have to be running this as an administrator. So the easiest way, in the version of Notepad++ I have, is if I hit space and then hit save, is it automatically tells me you have to be administrator to do this. So I say yes, and it switches me over to administrator mode. So now I'm running an administrator. Now some of the settings we're going to need in here, well, will be easier to get out of our old setup files. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is go back to Windows C, come in here, and go to the version we're currently on. and go into the same thing and find the robo and do the same thing and open it in a notepad, and then we'll take it and just kind of move it off to the side here so we can see both of them at once. And there we go. Now, one of the things you need to notice is you can't just copy what's in here and paste it in here, okay? Because this is what, an INI file, and this is a JSON file. So they're two different file formats, so you can't just copy one into the other. The new JSON code won't recognize this old code. Okay, but what we can do is go through here and change a couple things. First thing we need to change is the ID. It needs to have a unique ID. So we can do that. And then what I like to do is take that, and where it says name, this is the name you'll actually see in the list of printers. And if you want to, you can call it a robo. And if you want to, if you're doing this file, you can give yourself credit for being the author of the file. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really do anything. Okay, so now I don't have a PNG icon for it, or a platform. The platform we're going to print this in, we're not going to change any of this stuff here. We're just going to leave all that alone. So we're going to come down to our machine settings. Okay, well, it has a heated bed, yes. Okay, the width of our bed is 222. The height is 200, and the depth is 245. At least those are the dimensions of mine. Okay. The machine center is 0. Default false, because this is not a Delta printer. This is a standard printer, so 0 is not center. My nozzle size is a 0.4. My filament is 1.75. The heat up speed, cool down speed, I'm not worried about those. In fact, I'm really not worried about any of this right here either, and I'm actually going to take it out of the file. Because I looked at some of the other files, and it's not in some of the other files, so I'm guessing it's not truly needed. We'll find out. This is an experiment to see if this actually works. This is the G-code generator style we need, so we'll just leave it alone. So what I would do after I've done that far is I go ahead and save my work, because I like to save a lot. Now one of the things we need to do is we need to scroll down here until we find our start G code and our end G code. Okay, we have machine start G code and machine end G code. Alright, so what we would do first is, if we stretch this out just a little bit here, we can see when we scroll over that we have all of this G code here for the original machine type that we don't want. So we can delete it out. Okay, and then basically we're going to need to put our G code from over here in here. Now you can't just copy and paste it in. You have to actually put it in, because it has to go in a certain way. The first one is the G28. It would help if I could type. Is G28. Okay, if you want to make a comment about what the G28 is, you can put a semicolon and then make a comment. This is, let's see, the G28, if I'm not mistaken, is home all axis. But I'm not going to put comments in mine because I don't care for the printer to need to see a comment. Okay, so then you have to do an N. You have to do a backslash N. And then the next one is G, what is it, G92. Let's see if we can get it to do this for us. An N. And then if you actually look through here, well, it doesn't have it listed, but we can do it. Is a G92 E0. Basically what we're doing here is we're setting the extruder to 0. Whatever the coordinates the extruder thinks it is, we're setting it to 0. And the N, the slash N starts a new line, is what it's doing. So if we go, backslash N, that's backslash new line. And now we can put in our M56, our M565 space Z-1. This is our offset for our extruder. I have my offset set to 1. Depending on your printer, you might have it set to 0.9 or 0.8 or 1.1. So you just need to go through and look and see what you have it set. As you can see, I have it set to 1 here, so that's what I've always been printing at. So that's what I'm going to set it to here. And we'll see if this slicer needs it set differently. But we'll first have to put it in and get it printing. So backslash N for our next line. We have a G1 again. So now we're going to do a G1 space Z5 and F5000. And I don't think it cares whether they're capital or lowercase letters, but I'm not going to take a chance. I'm trying to do it right. What you're basically doing here is you are moving the Z-axis up 5 millimeters at the speed of 5,000. Backslash N. Okay, and then we're going to do a G29. Okay, a G29 is the auto bed level. Okay, so this is doing your auto bed level command. And then that's it. You can just stop the code there. Okay, so we have that. Go ahead and save my work again. And you don't have to have spaces after everything. The backslash N tells it new line, and then starts this one. So now we're going to do the same thing here for our end code. Now, like I say, you may have different G code in yours, and that's fine. You can use whatever G code you like. I know this is a G code I've always been running with, and it's served me well, so I'm just going to try and keep using it. So we're going to start off with a G92 Z0, which what we're doing here is we're telling Z that this is, wherever Z is right now, we're zeroing it. We're saying, hey Z, this is now your 0 position. Okay? And then we're going to do an M104. And we're going to set our temperature to 0. We're basically setting our extruder temperature to 0. And then we're going to do an M140, which sets our bed temperature. So we're setting our bed temperature to 0. Okay. Then we're going to do a G91, which sets the relative position for all the axes. So everything thinks that it's at 0 now. And then we are going to do a G1, which is a move command. Oops, I'm sorry, it's in G1. And we're going to tell our E, which is extruder, to go -1. And we're going to tell it to do it in F300, which is extrude. Basically, we're telling it to retract 1 millimeter at a speed of 300 millimeters a minute. And then we're going to do another G code. So we're going to come in here and do an N. We're going to do a G1. And now basically what we're going to do is we're going to move the extruder head away from the print. So we're going to do a Z, space, Z plus 0.5. So we're telling it to move up a 0.5 millimeter. We're going to tell it to retract another 5 millimeters. And then we're going to tell it to go to X20. Or sorry, we're going to tell it to go to negative. We're going to tell it to go to X negative 20 and Y negative 20. And then we are going to tell it to do it at, now our old one, as you can see, says travel speed. Well, travel speed is one of the settings up above in the document. It is, let's see, where did it go? There it is, travel speed. So basically what it's doing is this travel speed, whatever it is set to here, it is going to populate your G code here. Well, we don't have that setting here, and I don't know how to call it if I could set it up here. So all we're going to do is we're going to manually set it to 150. It's set that way over here basically is what it's doing, so we're just going to go ahead and continue with the same setting. Okay, and now we get back here. Alright, so that's what we did right here, and we're almost done with all this. And we're going to do ourselves a G28. Which a G28 is basically telling it to home, and we're going to tell it to home our X to 0 and our Y to 0. So we are basically saying home these two axes, which means it's going to move on the XY axis until it hits the limit switches. Okay. And then we're going to do an M84, which is turn off the stepper motors. And then our final one is a G90, which sets everything back to an absolute position. I'm not quite sure why we're doing that at the end, but that's the way all the code I found says to do it, so I'm doing it. And yes, I know I don't know everything about G code, so I'm just going by what I've learned playing with this code in the old one to put into the new one. So now that we have that, we should be able to save that. And now that we have this document saved, okay, we should be able to reopen the CURA 2.0. Okay, and you can see it brought us up with what we originally had it set on. Okay, we can come over here and you can click Add Printer or Manage Printers, or you can come over to Printers and click Add or Manage. You can do it either place. Okay. So we're going to go under Manage Printers, and we're into our printers. We're going to say Add. And as you can see, because we made a manufacturer of Robo, instead of leaving it as Other, it actually gave us our own list in the drop-down for our Robo. Now, if you'd left that as Other, it would be listed underneath the other printers. Okay? But since I made the manufacturer Robo, it actually gave me my own category here on the list. Okay, so once we select that one, we're going to say Finished. Okay, and then I'm going to remove the one we don't need from my list. And that leaves me with the Robo, and we can say Close. So now you can see we're on the Robo, and here's our build plate. Now as you can see, this over here looks a lot different than it used to. Okay, and there's a lot of things that are not over here right now that, in my opinion, should be, but we can take care of all that. Okay, by going into Settings and Preferences. If you go under Settings. Sorry, go under Settings. There's a huge list of stuff you can add to all of this. A huge list. I mean, there's all kinds of settings you can do. So we should probably look down this list and figure out what we do need and what we don't need. I'm not sure of everything we need yet. I do know there are a few things we do need that you really want to check off, or first time you go to print, it's not going to be good from what I've heard. One is under Material. You're going to want your printer temperature, and you're going to want your bed temperature. Otherwise, you can't adjust your print temperature or your bed temperature. Not a good thing. You also have your flow, and I guess it doesn't hurt to have your diameter out either underneath your material. You can also do your retraction distance and retraction speed. So as you can see, we have all that. I would say we don't really need anything else under the material section right now off the top of my head. That doesn't mean we don't. That just means I'm not aware that we need it right now. So let's scroll up here to the top and look at what else we have. See, we'll leave quality alone. We'll take care of our shells. We'll leave all that alone right now. Our infill's okay. Material speed. This one, I'm going to turn on the infill speed, wall speed, top and bottom speed, support speed, initial layer speed, skirt speed, and I guess that should be good enough. That's all of our basic speeds that we've been using on all of our other prints. So we can go through and set all of those speeds, because as you can see, they're all over the place, which is fine depending on the printer you're using. Some printers need them to be all over the place because some things it has to print slower than others. The Robo does a pretty good job at being a fairly consistent speed. Let's see, cooling. I can't think of anything we need to change there right now. So let's go with this and see how this does for us. There's all kinds of settings in here that I'm really not sure what they all do, so we'll have to get to all those. But for now, that should be a good start. Okay, so we have our 0.4 nozzle. We'll do our print. We're going to do a 0.2 layer height. Okay, we have our wall thickness, which tells you what the count is. So now you can actually go through it if you want to. You can tell it a different count than the thickness. If you do that, it does not update the thickness, but I believe this overrides this. So now it's going to do a wall count of 4. It's going to make 4 wall layers when it prints instead of this setting. Okay, so if you set this to 1.2, which is automatically 3 layers, and then we know this is correct at 0.2, which would be 6 layers. So I would say that is all correct. That's the numbers I like to print at. Everybody's different. You also have your fill density, and then you have your temperatures. This is why I say you really need to display these temperatures, because it sets it to 250 to start with. It doesn't matter if you come up here and select PLA, which it resets all your settings here, it still sets it to 250. So it doesn't really care what you set it to. It still thinks it needs to be 250 degrees to print. Why CURA would set it at 250 for PLA, I have no idea. I like to print at 210 with the filament I use. I like my bed temperature at 50. The diameter is fine. I've never needed my flow over 100, but that's not saying that you don't. That depends on your printer and your situation. The retract distance, 6.5 millimeters. That sounds like an awful long retract to me. I don't know what the standard retract would be. If we open the old CURA, retraction distance 3 millimeters and a speed of 50. That's what our old retraction is set to. So I think, at least I'm going to, under here, I'm going to set this to 3, which is what it was set on, and set this to 50. That way it is set to, I don't know, simplest way to put it, set to what it always has been. Okay, we have our print speeds, which is 60, and then these are all your overrides for the print speed. So as you can see, we have our infill speed of 60, our wall speed is set at 30. I'm going to go 60, 60, travel speed can be 150, Okay, our initial layer speed, I'm going to leave it at 30, and I'm going to leave our skirt speed at 30. I'm not going to change that. I'll leave those two where they are. So this is all my speed settings now for this. Cooling fan, regular fan speed at layer 2. Which means I want the first layer to go down without fan, and then the second layer you can turn the fan on. Or you can go to the third layer, or you can go to the fourth layer. If we look at our old one, cooling, if we come in here and look at it, as you can see, fan on at height 0.6, so it actually started on the third layer. So you can start it on the second, or you can start it on the third. It's your opinion where you want it to start. I guess for our first print, we'll start it on 3, and then maybe I'll play with that setting later and see how that does. If you have support material, you can check it. Oops, sorry. And then you can pick whether you want it everywhere, whether you want it touching the build plate, the support density, the angle it needs to support at. Enable support roof. I'm not sure what that is. Oh. That's a new one to me. I don't know what the support roof is. And it's at 100%. Might have to play with that on a print and see what that does later. For the print I'm planning on doing, I don't want to do any support material. Okay, then we have your plant form adhesion. You have your brim, which prints a brim right around the edge of your print, so just the brim is held down. Or you have your raft, or you have a skirt, which the skirt doesn't actually touch your print. It just gets some filament going before it actually starts your first layer. I recommend you always have a skirt. This one does have the ability in here, which the old CURA does too in some way, where if you have multiple objects on the plate, you can tell it to print them all at once, or you can tell them to print one at a time. You have to be careful with one at a time that each print isn't in the way of the other print, so the head won't ever run into the other prints. So rarely would I ever use that. I'm not sure what enable draft shield does either. Some of these settings I'm not familiar with. So what we're going to do is, let me see here. Okay, we have an SD card in, and let's grab a print real quick. So come in here, and we can go to, where do I have a print hiding? Let's do the benchy. So we're loading the benchy up here. As you can see, it's loading the file. It's loaded it. Now it's preparing to slice it. Now it's slicing. Okay, now it says it's ready to save to my removable drive. Okay, as we can see, it says it's going to take just a hair under an hour, 59 minutes, and it's going to use 4.69 meters of material. Now this does not state weight here, how many grams it's going to use, or kilograms it's going to use, how many grams it's going to use. So, but if we bring up our old one here real quick, and we load up our benchy in it, there's our benchy. And let it load up real quick. And of course, all of the settings are the same here. Okay. Now, according to this one, it's going to take an hour and 23 minutes. Where this says it's not going to take quite as long. And this says that it's going to use 4.91 meters, where this says 4.69 meters, and this says 15 grams. Well, this doesn't specify weight. I do kind of like having it specify weight, because when I price out a print to somebody, I like being able to pull it up in here and go, okay, well, this says it's 15 grams. I add a couple grams to it, and I know how much I'm charging per gram for my prints. So I kind of like having it, but it's missing. But as long as it prints well, who knows, maybe the new version might print better. So I'll tell you what we're going to do is we'll save both of these off to the SD card. So we'll save the first one off here. And you can see that it saved it off to the card. And then let's see what happens when we save the second one to the card. Okay, and as you can see, it says R3R1P Benchy code has been saved to the card. So we've saved the old and the new version to our SD card. So we'll take the SD card over to our printer, get it heated up and get it printing, and see how they come out. Hey guys, one more thing before we actually get to the printing. I just thought of this just before I went to take the SD card to the printer. Is I forgot about initial layer height. I know on mine I like my initial layer height at 0.2 or to match the same as what I am doing. So if I'm printing something at 0.2 or if I'm printing something at 0.1, I want the initial layer height to be the same. So I did find that if you go, you can click on these little gears which will bring you into settings and take you to that setting. There's one called initial layer height here. You also have line width you can do if you want. All kinds of other thickness settings here for your shells and all kinds of stuff. But the one I was looking for was this initial layer height. Okay. So I've added it, and as you can see, it was set to 0.3. I'm going to make it the same as my print. So I'm going to set it to 0.2. Okay. Then I'm going to re-add my model real quick. So let him pop in there again real quick. Like I said, I was just getting ready to start printing this when I thought about that I didn't have an initial layer height to set up. There we go. As we can see, it's all ready. It did not seem to change anything down here, so it might have changed this measurement a tiny little bit, but it shouldn't have. So let's save that off again. As we see it saving, it overwrote the last file we had. That's good. We can eject it. And it's telling me I can safely remove my SD card now. Now we can go get the printer heated up and get ourselves printing. Alright guys, here we go. Here's our two prints. The red one is our 2, it's CURA 2, and the white one is CURA 1. So if we take a look at them here, pick them up and take a look at them. So we can see on the front, the bow, the 1 is a little bit rougher than the 2 is. Okay, we can see that pretty clearly. I know the red's a little difficult to see, guys, but trust me, the red is a little bit nicer than the white one. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. As you can see across the front, they both had some issues. The red came out just a little bit better than the white did, but not a whole lot. If you look at the doors on the side, the red came out just a tiny bit better than the white did. If you look at the back, the red and the white are almost identical. Again, the red came out just a tiny bit better. And then if you look at the side, you can see that the red one came out just a tiny bit better on here too. Now, all of that being said, all those tiny, tiny little bits of difference and better, when you look at the bottom, I know the red is a little difficult to see. There you go. That's better. The definition on the white is better. It came out better. It's easier to read. Now that could just be the color, but more than likely it's the quality. And when you feel this print, you can feel the definition like on the rail here, here and here. On the white, it's much more pronounced than it is on the red. The definition on the roof is a lot better on the white than it is on the red. The definition on the back of it. I mean, you can just, it takes forever to try and find out. You can see this much better. You can feel it better. It has more texture to it. It's a cleaner print as far as that goes. So, in some ways, the 2.0 is better, and in some ways, the 1.0 is still better. Right now, the 2.0 is still in beta, so I have a suspicion that it's going to get better. Right now, I would still print with the 1.0 if I were you. It's just me. That's my opinion. I like the 1.0 still. I think it prints better. It is a little slower than the 2.0. These two models took a total, I think it was a 10-minute difference. The 1.0 took 10 minutes longer to print than the 2.0 did. Not a huge difference, but it is a difference. So, there you go, guys. That's the 1.0 and the 2.0. Thank y'all for watching. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, have a great day.